It's about don't let anyone take your voice. And I want to start with a story. I am in grief. I'm a young person who lost her brother. And what I really wanted to do was escape. And I found my way out. A couple of years ago, I decided that I wanted to just hang out and party, right? And it used to be real cute, but then it stopped being cute. The friend I used to party with was like, "Hey, you want some hookah?" And I was like, "I don't want nothing." And I was actually on the phone trying to text people, like, "Come get me." You put me in harm's way. I was questioning my safety, and I saw this person as like family. So your voice is sacred. It's not just what you say out loud, it's your intuition. Hey y'all, this is Little Sister Chris and your grief therapist. Welcome back to the Grip Spot. It's just me right now, and I'm hoping that you all have liked the season so far. It has been one of my best seasons to date. I appreciate all of my co grievers and my co siblings that have decided to share their story, decided to share their heart, and just represent so many households and so many communities today when they're on the podcast or whenever they are coming in. So just join in, subscribe, share, comment, and we're building more of a family here at the Grip Spot. So Grip is, if you're new, is GRIP, grieve in peace while picking up the pieces of our lives after we have lost a loved one, a friend, even a pet, y'all. We haven't talked about pet loss yet, but that's part of life as well. I wanted to come in here and just have a moment with you all. I am having a conversation that's very transparent with you. And many times I might hear people say, "Are you afraid that maybe one of your clients might come across your podcast and hear you spill all this information or bleed onto the mic?" And I'm not afraid at all. Actually, I invite that if they find me. I want people to know that they're getting a genuine therapist. They're getting a genuine person who has dealt with loss and navigating what life looks like after a loss. So today's episode and moment, again, I will be bleeding on this mic, y'all, being very transparent with you. And it's about don't let anyone take your voice. And I want to start with a story, not from college, not from adulthood, but from my earliest memories. And it will tie into where I am today. When I was a little girl, my first nightmares that I can remember, and it was reoccurring, was me being stuck in a bathroom, sitting in a clawfoot tub. And around me in this bathroom were other clawfoot tubs. And inside of these tubs were snakes just coming out, flowing out. And I'm in the middle of this room, if you can imagine with me. And I remember in my dream just screaming at the top of my lungs, screaming. And I could not, it felt like I was screaming loud enough for people to hear me, but I was actually muffled and no one could come to my rescue. No one came. And that was a reoccurring dream for me as a young person. Now, that was my first experience of losing my voice. Fast forward some years later, I am in grief. I'm a young person who lost her brother. My brother died from leukemia in 1997. He went through 7 months of chemo and fighting for his life after his diagnosis. And we watched him die less than a month after he turned 18. As a 14-year-old, I tried to navigate high school. And what I really wanted to do was escape. And I found my way out. And at the time, I was very shy. I was very quiet. Everybody in the house was louder than me. My brother was always very loud and rambunctious. My mom, loud and rambunctious. My dad, not as loud, but definitely a tall man and definitely his presence known. I did not want to make my presence known at all. I was very shy, again, introverted, I would say. So I graduated high school, went to college. In my freshman year, I decided to join the gospel choir. And I am a Church of Christ. Like I grew up Church of Christ. If you know anything about that, it doesn't have any music whatsoever when you're singing. So we have chorus and we have a cappella singing, and the audience participates together with singing. There is no instruments, there's no piano, there's no drum, there's nothing, just a cappella singing, everybody singing in harmony. So me joining the gospel choir was a culture shock for me. And having to sing behind all of these instruments and people singing with their full voice, I was not used to that. So I remember my freshman year, the very first month, I'm a natural soprano. So I was sitting in the area with all the rest of the sopranos. And then I had the soprano director. I won't say her name, but she was coming around and she was just listening to us sing and making sure we had our parts. And I remember her saying to me, "Are you even singing? I can't even hear you." And I want to get smart because I was thinking if you turn this music down, you could hear me sing. But I didn't. I just said, "Yes, I'm singing." My first semester, I was assigned a duet. And this baffled me because before, when I was at home, which is in Nashville, 3 hours away, I was at home. I used to sing in the chorus and I would just fade into the background. I was assigned one song, but it never came into fruition. I never did get to sing that song. And I was in the chorus there maybe about 3, 4 years. But it was it was astounding to me that my choir director at the school decided to feel the need to assign me a duet. How did she know that my voice could carry? Because I didn't even know. I had no clue. I had never done it before. I've never sang with music, but I did it. I sang at storefront churches. I sang in all type of churches around Memphis and some parts outside of Memphis. I sang duets for 5 semesters, being assigned. I even had a high soprano part in a competition that we went to in Norfolk, Virginia, my sophomore year. If you know the Negro spiritual, Ezekiel Saw the Wheel, I sang that song and then I had a very high soprano ending there that ended the song. And we ended up winning that competition. I could sing it to you right now, but I'll wait till the end. So I was able to use my voice, my harmonies, and my grief. It really helped me grieve in the choir to be able to sing and to hear my voice and to see other people respond to me the way they responded to me in the audience and even in the choir. I have a joke with my best friend that I was singing one time and I heard somebody scream, "Ah!" Just scream, and I wonder who it was, just out of the blue. And at the end of the choir concert, I said, "Y'all," I was with some other friends, and I was like, y'all hear somebody scream while I was singing my song?" My best friend is who is my sister now. She was like, "Girl, that was me." And we just laughed and laughed and laughed. I had never gotten that response from anybody when it comes to my voice. Also in college, I was able to recite poetry. And I found my voice with creativity and writing. Up to that point, I never really liked to write poetry. Poetry wasn't my thing. But I had grief, and then I had a new relationship thing that had broken up, and I was in deep depression. So I needed to be able to create in order to feel and tap into my feelings, into my words. So with reciting poetry, during the summers, I would come home to Nashville, and there was a coffee shop on Jefferson Street, historical Jefferson Street, called Kajiji's. Kajiji's was packed every Friday night with college kids. There was standing room only, and I would sign up to do open mic night to be able to perform my poetry. Did I do a best job at it? Probably not, because I was super quiet about it and I would just be talking. I didn't have the emotion, when you go to open poetry nights and people are like, oh, they're kind of rapping and they have inflections in their voice. I wasn't like that. I wasn't that good at it yet. But it was my introduction more to my voice. And I remember the responses that I was getting from my poetry and from me. being up there and voicing my craft. Fast forward many years later, life has this funny way of reminding you of your voice. A couple of years ago, I decided that I wanted to just hang out and party, right? I was partying at a cigar lounge and it was fun to do. It was fun to hang out with one of my other friends, a friend that I met in my 20s. And it just felt really good to be with this friend because we had spent some time apart. Like life was happening. They were in relationships and all of this stuff. And we just had this time where we weren't as close. So once their relationship had broken up and I supported them through that relationship breakup, um, we were going out and it just felt like we were again in our 20s when we first met, in our 20s, maybe early 30s. It just felt so good to be able to reconnect with my friend in that way. But as time went on, as we were partying that year, I started to become fatigued with it. And I noticed that the more I smoked cigars and the more I was smoking hookah, that I was raspy in the weekend. So we would be up on Friday. We wouldn't get home till Saturday morning, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And for the rest of the weekend, I was raspy up until like maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, where I got my full voice back. And at first it was real cute because I could hit a low register. I could hit Beyonce notes or Tony Braxton notes, and it used to be real cute. Um, but then it stopped being cute. I would go to church and want to sing what I needed to sing, and I could not get my soprano voice out. And I started also to feel fatigue. And I got to the point where I wanted to kind of just settle into my job that I had at the time, my work from home job. And I also wanted to just quit this podcast. And I also wanted to quit my private practice because I needed a break. I was tired. And I just wanted to do what I wanted to do at the time. And it felt good being with this person. It felt good being with this friend. And I had never been outside like that, not like that, and gotten the attention that I was getting. But later on, I decided, hey, a new year had come, and I was celebrating that new year. And then a feeling or a wave of fatigue just went over me. And I knew I had to make some decisions that was best for me. And I decided, based on some other things that had happened with this situation and partying, I decided I didn't need to do it anymore. It wasn't me. And I didn't want to feel like I was violating my own boundaries to continue to party in the way that I was partying. And I didn't want to continue because it just wasn't me. Every now and then I have fun. Yes. But when it's every weekend or twice a week or being out like that is not me. I have other things I need to concentrate on. And I never did quit my podcast. I kept it going. I never did quit my private practice on the side at the time. I just kept going. But I found out that it wasn't those things that I needed to quit. I needed just to be away from the environment of smoking cigars and hookah. So I stopped, completely stopped. And the anxiety that I felt because I still didn't have my voice back, it got to the point where the raspiness stopped being cute because it lingered. And I was losing my voice. And I said to God, I said, listen, I'm a little anxious about me going to church and I can't naturally hit a soprano note. It doesn't feel good. It's causing me anxiety. And my voice is all I have. That's how I do the podcast. That's how I talk to people in therapy. And then that's how I praise God, right? So stopped going. And it took 6 months for me to get my full voice back. 6 months for me to get it back. And finally got it back. And I didn't go back at all. I didn't go back to this place to smoke cigars or hookah. Fast forward to the end of the year, and I am now full-time private practice. I didn't quit that, right? I went full-time private practice, and I was, getting a contract for the city to work in recovery, all of that, and things were moving forward in the podcast, and things were moving forward in my private practice. Again, I was full-time. So I was concentrating on building, and being outside and marketing and all of that. I experienced the death of a friend, a mutual friend, and we all met in our 20s and we all used to hang out. And unfortunately, it was a tragic death that happened. It was an accident on the interstate. And I was s- talking to people and talking to this friend that I had distanced myself from because of partying. I had distanced myself from this friend, and this friend, told me about it. And then I had to call other people to talk to them about this death. And then, we all gathered for the funeral. And it felt really good to gather for this funeral, even though it was a bittersweet moment. And we don't never want to gather for a funeral, right? Afterwards, we all decided, let's go get something to eat. So we get something to eat, and I'm having a really good time because I love every single one of the people that we met at this place. We all met at a job, working together in the trenches together, in our 20s, and some people were in their early 30s. Really enjoyed them. So we had a really good time. Some things started to happen to where I let my guard down, and the friend that I used to party with was there, and this person tried to apologize to me at the time in front of everybody, because we had by then been distant for several months. Um, and I just sat there and listened to this person and, received it, but didn't really know how to feel about it because we were in front of people. And so I was invited to go sit in a car with this person. And we all was like, oh, let's come on and, go sit in the car together. And we could just kind of like debrief and be like, it's just like old times again. We used to hang out at each other's house. So I am sitting in the car, and I had not been drinking because at the time I was doing personal training and I had to make make weight on Monday, and I didn't want to have no issue with my trainer, so I didn't drink anything and ate very well. I was the only one that did not drink that night. That's fine, right? That's fine. So we were just sitting in the car, just trying to sober up, all of that. And just an incident that occurred that ended up in me being somewhere that I did not want to be. And the person that I used to party with, um, asked several times while we were in the restaurant if we had anything else that we were doing later on. And I said, I'm going home. Because earlier I did not feel well. I actually took a COVID test before the funeral, and just to make sure I was good because I had some type of sinus something going on, and I did not want to go. I didn't want to go and think I had COVID. But I didn't have COVID, so I got to the funeral and I was okay. And then I didn't plan on being out as long as I was. Did not plan on it because again, I didn't feel that great. But it was good to see everybody. So we're at the restaurant, whatever. We go sit in the car and sit there. And any crime show, they tell you, don't let anybody take you to a second location. And I let my guard down and was taken from that parking lot to a second location. And which was not too far, okay? It wasn't too far, it was just across the street. But that became a problem. There was a little incident there. And we get back in the car, and it was asked from this person, hey, do y'all want to go to this lounge? Y'all want to go? And I said no. I kept saying no. And my other friend, he said no. And the other one was like, he was down for whatever. But I kept saying, nah, no, I was very casual about it. Um, but ended up when this person was trying to take us back to our cars to this restaurant, after taking us somewhere else, and they were supposed to take us back to our cars. Instead of taking us back to the restaurant where our cars were parked so I can go home, they put one tire into the turning lane to get back to the restaurant, but then came out of the turning lane and decided to get on the interstate and take us to this place anyway. And we were like in the backseat kind of laughing. Me and my friend were kind of laughing because that's how sometimes I process information. Like I'll laugh first, but then I'm processing information. Like, wait a minute, what just happened? First of all, I said no. And secondly, I'm being taken to a place where I told God I was not going back to. And I was in the back seat. We were kind of laughing about our friend that went, our friend and her voice and everything that we were kind of reciting her voice, the one that died. We were kind of, just talking about her and laughing in the back seat. But I'm over here with my friend in the back seat and we're kind of like holding each other. And he looked at me. He was like, I ain't never been kidnapped. And it sounds funny, and it's in one regard, it's funny because it's somebody you know. It's somebody you know that's driving that's not 100% sober either, and they're driving you to a place that nobody else knows that you made this vow and made this promise to God that you're not going back to. So I'm being taken against my will because I did say no, against my will to this place again. And I'm in this place and I'm having an out of body experience. And I hadn't been there in, I know, 10 months, 10, 11 months. And I watched my friend just do all other stuff and wasn't even entertaining us while we were sitting there. And my friends, they were kind of like holding, they didn't know. They didn't know because I wasn't going to share that information with him. They were outsiders in this, but they didn't know how much we used to party there or how much I used to party there. They didn't know. But I sat with them and they were actually holding my hand because I was super cold in there too. They were holding my hand. And the friend I used to party with was like, hey, you want some hookah? And I was like, I don't want nothing. And I was actually on the phone trying to text people, like, come get me. I used to work for the police department, but I ended up being taken outside the county. So I was like, how do I get out of this? And it turned out later on, we were there for maybe like an hour, and finally we were ready to go. And the friend said, oh, well, why didn't y'all tell me y'all ready to go? And I said to myself, listen, I didn't even want to be here in the first place. I didn't want to be here in the first place. So you asking me this question is really teeing me off. And I didn't say nothing in the moment because, again, our other friends did not know, had no clue. So I wasn't going to act up right then. But we finally got to our cars, I finally got to my house, and I wondered, what just happened? What just happened with my friend that I had for a very long time, where me saying no was violated? And I feel like I put my guard down in that moment to be violated. But nobody has permission. And I also had this conversation with God too about my voice, because again, I was offered hookah, and hookah, when I smoked hookah, it would burn my throat. And my voice is very important to me. So don't let anybody destroy your voice. And that moment put me in a situation where I reevaluated everything and where I was in this friendship. It was already disjointed. It was already disconnected. But after that, I decided to tell this person, listen, this is what it's been for months. I can no longer do this relationship like this. You put me in harm's way. I was questioning my safety, and I saw this person as like family, right? For the longest time, you put my safety in jeopardy. I am my parents' only child, surviving child. My parents are aging. I'm it. That's it. So if I have to think about my job, the safety of my job, and being an entrepreneur, in my city contracts, if I have to think about the safety of my body, and then not being around for my parents to take care of them, and just my friendship, and you violating violating my voice, then I have to call this. I love you, and you need to get the help that you need to get. but I cannot be that person. And I decided to end the friendship. In grief, we tend to hang on to people longer than they should be with us. And that's what this relationship was about. I had many people come to me and ask me questions about this person. I had a professor ask me about this person, hoping I did not know them personally. And I was like, no, whatever. That's that's family right there. I would always go to bat. But at that moment, I could no longer go to bat. And I could no longer allow someone to take my voice. So the message for you all is your voice is sacred in grief and trauma. And I want you to hear me clearly. I want you to hear me so clearly because throughout my life, I've had people invalidate my feelings, invalidate my experiences. And at this big age, it's not working for me. I will not allow that anymore. So your voice is sacred. It's not just what you say out loud. It's your intuition. It's your boundary. It's your song. It's your calling. It's the inner child who, like me, screamed in a nightmare but was never heard. You don't betray her. Don't silence yourself to keep the peace. Don't muffle your yes or your no to make others more comfortable. And please don't wait until you've lost your voice to realize how much it matters. Maybe you're in the place today where your voice feels shaky, like mine. Maybe you've been partying too much. You've been people pleasing too much. You've been saying yes when your spirit screams no, like I did. Let this be your reminder. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to grieve friendships. You are allowed to walk away. You are allowed to rest and you are allowed to return to yourself. Don't let anyone, and not even the version of you from the past, take your voice. Thank y'all for listening to the Grip Spot. If this episode touched you, share it with someone who needs to find their voice again. Subscribe, leave a comment, and meet me back here. I come every 2 weeks on Saturdays at noon Central Standard Time. Until then, grip life with both hands and speak your truth out loud. I love you guys. It's the little sister Chris and your grief therapist.